So, last week's discussion, we were discussing about Erev Tavshilin. And one of the questions was asked, could you do the zechus through a woman? Which means when you do it for everyone, you have everyone in mind, you need to give it to someone else and say that this person, by this that I'm giving it over to this other person, this will give the merit for everyone in the city or all the Jewish people that are in the city to rely on this Erev. And we asked if you could do it through your wife. So I was checking the halacha today, and it's actually a machlokes.
There's a surprise.
What a surprise, right?
Let me go. 2 opinions.
2 opinions.
Oh no, probably more.
So one opinion says that, because a wife is so close, so it doesn't work. On the other hand, there is a halacha
Wait, she's so close to what?
To her husband.
There's no transfer.
So you're not transferring, you're not giving it over to someone different. Right?
Anyway, okay.
From the other hand, there is a halacha that if someone wants to give a gift to the wife, to someone's wife, and says that the man will not be able to get any benefit from it, this is just for her and not for the man, he is allowed to do that.
That's what a father-in-law can do for a daughter-in-law that's married. That's how he has to designate it. He has to designate a gift for her in order that the husband doesn't have authority of it.
Right, and he has to specifically say it's specifically for her. So in that sense, so the wife has something to herself separate from her husband, the fact that she's able to get this gift and the husband will not receive benefit from it. So those opinions say that a wife, you could do it with your wife, the Erev Tavshilin. So the halacha is that in the situation where you don't have anyone else, so then you could use your wife for the Erev Tavshilin. But if you have someone else which is not dependent on you, then that's much better. So if you have like a friend, if there's a friend, there's right. So then, in that situation, it doesn't call it b'diavad. It says l'chatchila. When in a place where there's no other opportunity, that's what you would do. Makim sheinish. Right? Okay, great.
After the hafila means even in the first place. And Ruben said in a place where there's no man, the woman suffices.
So today is a new topic, a new discussion. Today's discussion is the Semicha, but not Semicha as in when someone becomes a rabbi. This is Semicha that you do on an animal. When you bring a karban, when someone brings a sacrifice, the Torah says that you're supposed to place your hands on the animal before slaughtering the animal.
They're related, right, though?
Yes, because when you get ordained to be a rabbi, the way it used to be was that they used to place their hands on the person and say this person has the authority to paskin, to rule in certain things. So the discussion is if you're allowed to do that on Yom Tov. Are you allowed to place your hands on the animal on Yom Tov? Because we know that there are certain karbanos, certain sacrifices that you're supposed to bring for a Yom Tov. And the question is, we know that you're not really supposed to be using animals or being in contact with animals on a Yom Tov, but are you allowed to do the smicha? Are you allowed to place your hands on the animal? So we'll see what's the argument, and there's a whole story over here what happened. So it's on page 21 where it says Daf 20b. Usually when an individual brings an animal karban, he must perform smicha, which is leaning on the karban. According to Beis Hillel, this is another argument. This is a debate between Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai. Smicha may be performed on Yom Tov, according to Beis Hillel. Beis Shammai disagree. The Gemara brings a brisa that relates a story which shows that the halacha follows the opinion of Beis Hillel. The brisa then continues. Shuv Maisa, there was another incident involving one of the disciples of Beis Hillel, who brought his oila to the courtyard. We know there's different types of karbanos. There's a shlamim, which is a peace offering where you get to eat from it, and a oila is a burnt offering that goes fully to Hashem. And one of the disciples of Beis Hillel brought this Ayla to the courtyard to lean on it. One of the disciples of Beis Shammai met him and said, so this is Beis Shammai was obviously not in favor of this person, of the students of Beis Hillel coming with an Ayla and doing Semicha, leaning on it. According to Beis Shammai's ruling, you're not supposed to do that. So the students of Beis Shammai says, what kind of Semicha is this? He says, what are you doing? How could you do this Semicha on Yom Tov? This is violation of Beis Shammai's ruling. The disciple of Beis Hillel retorted, what kind of silence is this? Since the... Hi, Reuben.
Silence?
What type
Why are
of...
you being quiet?
Or he's basically saying, quiet. He's telling him, be quiet. Like, why are you telling me off? You should be quiet.
Why are you silencing my prayer? No?
He's saying, why are you telling me that I should not be doing the smicha when the
Right,
rule
but there's a
halacha follows
There's a verbal
Beis Hillel?
component to smicha, right?
There's what?
Verbal component to smicha as well as the hands?
No. It's just placing your hand. So he says, what kind of silence is this? Which means, since the halacha follows Beis Hillel's view, you should remain quiet. And if you look in the Hebrew, there's a bunch of question marks and exclamation marks. It's a little bit hard to read, and they also put a line in the middle. He says, mazui, mazui. In Hebrew, mazui is like, what is this? You say, mazui, smicha, and it has a question mark, exclamation mark. And then the other rabbi said, mazui, what is this? Shika, question mark, exclamation mark. Because he's basically telling you, like, what is this? You should really be quiet. He's like, why are you telling me not to do the smicha? I hold like Beis Hillel that you could do the leaning of the animal on the Yom Tov. So this is the story. He silenced him with this rebuke and left. That's the end of the story. We don't know, it doesn't say clearly what happened after that. It just says he silenced him with this rebuke and left. It also doesn't say who left. It doesn't say if the student of Beis Shammai left or the student of Beis Hillel left. But this was a serious confrontation, an argument over here that happened in the Beis Hamikdash. He's coming with his animal, and this student attacks him and says, what are you doing with the smicha over here? And the other rabbi says, like, be quiet. And we even take a lesson from this story. We're on page 21, if you like. The Gemara teaches a lesson from this disciple's measured retort. Abaye said, this thus teaches that a rabbinic student whose colleague speaks critically to him should not respond more critically than his colleague's words in order to maintain peace. They're actually saying that by him responding, mazui, shika, he was teaching us a lesson that if you get into an argument, a debate with someone, don't go more than what the other person is arguing. If he used 3 words, it was precise. 3 words. Mazui smicha. So what did the other student say back? He said exactly 3 words. Mazui shika. What is this? You should be quiet. They didn't get into a whole heated debate. A lot of times what happens is, when people start arguing, you say one thing, the other guy says something back and forth, and it starts heating the pot and the challenge, and it becomes, you crank it up. So he says, no, keep it fair, keep it exactly. He said one thing, he said he responded in the same kind and not more. So, in this instance, the disciple of Beis Shammai said, what kind of smicha is this? And the disciple of Beis Hillel replied simply, what kind of silence is this? And did not add anything. So this is a lesson from the story. Mazah shika, mazah smicha. So this is kind of in the middle of a whole thing. We're bringing one story, but this discussion of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel is really a huge, huge debate. And this was actually the first halachic debate, halacha and argument that there was altogether. And this argument, whether
Between Hillel and Shammai.
between Hillel and Shammai, whether you could do smicha, whether you could lean on the animals, was the first debate that was not resolved, and maybe the first debate altogether in between the rabbis.
Wow, that stage just continued on.
On and on.
You're saying it wasn't resolved, but we hold by Hillel, so can't we draw the inference that it wasn't resolved? Are we supposed to draw the inference?
So the question is, even this story here, we see from the story that it wasn't so simple, because he's coming to the Beis Hamikdash, and the student of Beis Shammai is telling him, what are you doing? And then the students of Beis Hillel is saying, like, no, the halacha is like Beis Hillel. We see that there's something that's going on over here. So I made some copies for more resources about this. Which way are we going here?
I think that's it.
So we called it.
Oh, is this you? Yeah. He has it, that's fine, it's fine.
Fine.
Not to worry,
The
not to
one,
worry.
you have more than one extra? Just the
Sorry.
one? Okay.
So we called it the Great Smicha Debate. So first to bring the psukim that we know that you're supposed to lean on an animal when you bring the karban. This comes from Vayikra. It says, "V'samach yadei al reisha olav v'nirtzalei lechaper olav," and he shall lay his hand upon the head of the burnt offering, that it may be acceptable in his behalf. Then on the bottom it says a few basic rules of smicha. One, generally limited to personal korbanos, which is, I guess, not so much by communal offerings. Two, an agent shliach does not perform smicha, which means if you give your sacrifice to someone else to do, the other person won't do the leaning on the animal. It's only if you're bringing the animal yourself, then you will do the smicha. If smicha is not done, the karban remains valid, which means that it's not necessary. You should do it, but if you didn't do it, it's still kosher. The karban is still kosher, even if you did not do the smicha.
So what's the argument all about?
The argument is if you could do it on a Yom Tov.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
4, smicha is done by placing your hands on the animal's head. 5, smicha takes place in the Beis HaMikdash. 6, smicha should take place immediately prior to sacrificing the animal. These are some details about it. Now the next question is, could women do smicha? Is it something that only men do, or could ladies also do the smicha? What?
They can shech. Women can shech.
Can women check?
They're supposed to be the blood. You know, one of them didn't. They're afraid of the blood. That's why they don't. That's what it says. But
If women's really afraid of blood, that's why she came off the
I
bottom.
think that's what. I think so. Check it out.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. So if women could do shchita, you're saying that it's
For
technical.
herself.
You're saying technically because they're afraid, that's why.
I'm saying technically.
Okay. Yeah. When it comes to a karban, a sacrifice, the women are not slaughtering the animal. They're not doing the shchita. But if they're bringing an animal, should they lean their hands on the animal? So in source 2 on the second page, the Gemara derives from the fact that there was even a dispute whether one can perform smicha on Yom Tov. That smicha requires you to press and lean down on the animal with all your weight, something that is not obvious from the Mishnah. If it was just, placing your hands a little bit, or you put it even a little bit above, there wouldn't be this whole discussion, because you're not really dealing with animals. You're just placing your hands on it a little bit. But from the fact that there's this whole argument, it sounds like you really need to place your whole weight on the animal when you're doing the smicha. Second, we see that while women were not obligated in performing smicha, they still desired to do so. The smicha process was comforting in its own way, perhaps by allowing a person to fully appreciate the magnitude of what was about to take place. So if you think about it, it's what involvement does the person bringing the karban have with the actual bringing of the karban? Not too much. You bring the animal, you give it to the kohen, and the kohen does the whole thing. So where do you feel that you're participating, that you're doing something? That's actually the smicha. When you place your hands on the animal, that's the kind of service that you feel that you're involved in. You feel part of it. So the woman
They want them to cry.
Who?
The animal giver,
They want who to cry?
the person that owns the animal. They're so close to the animal, you're going to get them closer before it gets checked. You're losing your animal for food, but you still have an emotional attachment.
Yes. You're saying... Yeah, it's interesting what the idea is. What's the idea of placing your hands on it? You're saying who would cry? The person will cry when placing. Yeah.
The man that's pressing on the animal.
Yeah,
Before
possibly.
he leaves the owner.
That's assuming
Gotta
there's
be-
one.
Even cow farmers get emotional over losing their
You could buy
cows.
an animal also.
Huh?
You could buy an animal just to have it tested. As long as you bought it, it doesn't have to be your own personal.
Yeah, you could sell your cow and have money, and then
Oh, I
take the
see
money
what
to
you're
Jerusalem and
saying.
buy a cow.
You're not, from the breeding point of view, is someone just transferring ownership from another person's cow to another person?
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, there
you
might
transfer,
not be much emotion
you transfer the
involved.
kedusha to the money, and then you take the money to Jerusalem and you buy a cow there.
Yeah, it might not be that then. Yeah, I don't know, I'm just thinking about
but-
the guy
but there's
that's
definitely
breeding
the-
it.
You're a horse?
Hmm?
You're a horse person. You're a horse person.
Cows too have, you can get attached to any kind of
Yep.
living animal like that.
Yeah, that's
Even if
true.
you paid for it. I mean, even if you bought it.
Yeah,
It depends on who you are and how you connect with each other.
Besides for the emotional attachment to an animal, there's also the emotion of being part of bringing a carbon. You know, you want to feel like you're doing something. You're not just giving it to the kohen. So the women were like, hey, we also want to do smicha. So let's see what the Gemara says. This part is in Hebrew, but it says, Meisvei Dabrel B'nei Yisrael V'samach. The pasuk says, speak to the B'nei Yisrael V'samach, and they should do smicha. So the Gemara says, B'nei Yisrael Saimchin, V'ein B'nois Yisrael Saimches. It says B'nei. B'nei means the sons of Israel and not the daughters of Israel, which means that women do not do smicha. But there's obviously another opinion. Rabbi Yossi Rav Shimon Oimrim, B'nois Yisrael Saimches Rishus. It says women do not have to do it; they're not obligated to. But if they want, they can. Like we find many mitzvahs, the women are not obligated in certain mitzvahs, but if they want, they can. Amr Rabbi Yossi, Sachli Abba Lazar. Rabbi Yossi said that a person called Abba Lazar once said, Pam achas hayolanu egel shel zivchei shlamim. Once we had a calf of a peace offering, v'hevinu le'ezras nashim, and we brought it to the woman's courtyard. V'samchu olav nashim, and the woman did smicha. So this is a story that they're recording, that there was a time that they brought the animal specifically to where the women were, in order that they should be able to do smicha. Lo mipnei shesmicha b'nashim, not because they have to, ela kadei lasis nachas ruach lenashim. This is in order to give nachas ruach, to make them feel good, that they are able to do the smicha. So we see from the story how much people really wanted to do smicha, and that's why this was a big debate about it, whether you could do it or not. And someone that feels like that they can't come and do the smicha, they might not even bring a carbon. they might not come in the first place.
After a woman had a baby, wasn't she supposed to bring a carbon?
Yes, there's a carbon yoledes. She's supposed to bring the carbon. So the question is, does she also do the smicha? And from here we see that they're not obligated to, but they could. And there was this incident that they recorded that woman did it, and they did it specifically to make them feel good that they're bringing the carbon.
Well, if they didn't have the money for a cow, they could bring a bird. So would they be doing it on a bird?
So it's only by animals. You don't do smicha on birds. Probably, yeah,
I would think
yeah.
it'd be silly. so-
Right, because it might fly away also.
Oops, I leaned a little too hard.
Sorry about that.
Yeah.
Press duck for dinner again.
Reminds us a little bit of the kaparas, but you have to hold on the chicken.
A
But,
cow
yeah.
So where does this happen?
Where do you do the smicha?
Yeah.
In near the Beis Hamikdash, in the courtyard, in the.
So not right as you're there and it's about to be sacrificed, you do it like, because it just said, there's a whole gathering of people, and gathering of animals. So.
There's a gathering of women.
Where
Yeah,
do you see a gathering of
there's
animals?
I think you said, there's a gathering, is it of women or animals, or of both?
Hevianehu la'ezras nashim, brought it to the women's courtyard. Samchu alav
Sorry, I don't remember about.
So see, if you're bringing the animal to the women's courtyard, so where's the?
No, they didn't shechta there. They brought it there specifically.
So that's what I'm saying, so they're doing the leaning way before the shechting.
It's not. I don't know how.
I don't know, but
it's-
way before, but.
Do you still have your
nonetheless.
Beis Hamikdash book?
What?
You still have your Beis Hamikdash book?
Yes. It's
Why don't we?
upstairs.
Oh, because I was say you could show a picture of where the women's courtyard is in relation to the inner courtyard.
The Ezras Nashim is a big place. It's a big part of the Beis Hamikdash. Actually, the Ezras Yisrael, the place for the men, is a small place,
Well,
very
you see,
small.
If you ever been to the Kotel, There's many more women there than men, even though the men's section is there.
But, so anyway, so this is it's close enough, which means that they bring it to the Ezras Nashim. You could probably walk there 5 minutes. You would already be able to shech the animal. So it's not very far. It's close enough. So there is going to be actually a discussion. Some people say that you could do smicha from Erev Yom Tov, like you don't even need to do it right away. But we're assuming now that it does need to be. Yeah. Now, what would be the problem of doing smicha on Yom Tov altogether? What would be the problem with leaning on an animal? So here we bring in source 3. The Mishnah describes the rabbinic prohibition of utilizing an animal, for example, leaning on for support on Yom Tov. This is also a Mishnah in Beitza. The Mishnah says, any act for which one is liable on Shabbos as a matter of shavus. There's something called a shavus. Shavus are things which the rabbis said that you're not supposed to do on Shabbos. There's certain things that the Torah says you're not allowed to, and then there's what the rabbi said. Shavus the shavus.
Like
or
siyag?
like a siyag,
Okay.
like a boundary.
Oh, okay.
Like,
From Pirkei Avos, and establish a boundary around the Torah.
yep. Or as an optional matter, or as a mitzvah, one is liable on a holiday. And these are as a matter of shavus. And they list a few things. One may not climb a tree, and one may not ride atop an animal. So you're not allowed to go on a no horseback riding on Yom Tov. They say the reason is because you might want to like whip the horse a little bit. You might break off a branch. So the same thing is also with leaning on an animal. That's using an animal, and the rabbi said you're not allowed to do that. Also connected with the same idea with a twig and things like that.
But you're not, what do you mean you're using the animal?
Huh?
It is a stretch, but it is nevertheless the law. You might come to break a stick off
Oh, the stick I got.
a branch,
and the
but that's why you
horse
shouldn't
I got.
ride. But that's
the
exactly
leaning on, I don't.
the leaning with all
So-
your weight. You're effectively riding it for a moment.
So that's the idea. Leaning with all your weight, you're putting your whole weight onto it. That means you're getting
Your feet are
supported by the
completely unloaded.
animal. What's the difference if you're on top of it or you're leaning?
Oh, I think there's a big difference.
Yes.
It's at least three.
So you're saying that the Mizrachis would allow it?
What?
A doubt on a doubt, a suffix on a
I'm
suffix.
saying that it's, and the problem with riding is that you might break off a twig. You're gonna break, so where are you gonna break off a twig?
When you're doing
when you lean on
smicha.
the animal just before they're gonna shed.
Mm-hmm.
A good question also is, are there twigs in the courtyard? Maybe if there were no twigs, it's wherever
No,
within sight.
There's no twigs. You're not allowed to
So
plant
what-
it.
So why would that, so it's interesting, they would still take a law that's based, as he says, on an instance of an instance and apply it in a situation where it's A, not the intentional act, and B, the possible violation is nowhere in sight.
So that's true. So I think we're siding with Beis Hillel's opinion. Shammai is extra strict. We know that
Yeah.
Shammai is extra strict. So in source 4, we'll see how big of a debate this was between the rabbis. These Mishnayos describe the generational dispute surrounding smicha. The juxtaposition of these two Mishnayos provides strong support for interpreting the first Mishnahs also describing smicha on Yom Tov. So this is how the Mishnah goes. Yosi ben Yoezer Omer Shaloi Lismach. The Rabbi Yosi ben Yoezer says not to do smicha. Yosi ben Yochanan Omer Lismach. He says yes for smicha. Yeshua ben Prachia Omer Shaloi Lismach. Nitzai Arbeli Omer Lismach. Yehuda ben Tabai Omer Shaloi Lismach. Shimon ben Shetach Omer Lismach. Shmaya Omer Lismach. Avtalion Omer Shaloi Lismach. Hillel and Menachem loy nachlaku. Came to a certain Hillel and Menachem did not argue. Yatza Menachem, something happened. Menachem left. Nechna Shammai, Shammai entered, and then they got back into an argument. Shammai Yomer Shaloi Lismach. Hillel Yomer Lismach. Hurry.
So Hillel and Shammai were the last of the ones that disputed, not the first.
That's correct.
Okay, that did not occur to me.
Harishainim hayu nasiim. The first one of each group, they were the nasi, they were the leaders. Ushniim lahem av bezdin. The second in each one of these pairs was the av bezdin, the head of the bezdin. So this continued. This machlokes in each generation they kept on going. This argument, yes smicha, no smicha. And then it continued with the students of Shammai and the students of Hillel. this continues in where it says 3. Beis Shammai says they bring peace offerings on Yom Tov and do not lay their hands on them, but they do not bring burnt offerings. We're adding now another argument, because we said there's 2 types of sacrifices. There's a burnt offering, a oila, and then there's shlomim, the peace offerings.
And furthermore,
So Beis Shammai say that on Yom Tov we're supposed to have a certain benefit. You're only allowed to do things which are oichel nefesh, which are for food that you could eat from. So Beis Shammai says you cannot bring a burnt offering on Yom Tov altogether. And you can't do smicha even on a peace offering.
but isn't the oleg actually called food for Hashem?
Yeah, but it's not food for you.
Yeah.
So how could you
But
bring
you
it?
can prepare food for Hashem?
How do
It's
you
still
know?
food?
It says oichel nefesh, food for our soul. So
Alright,
Beis
gotcha.
so Beis Shammai says not for.
Hashem? God doesn't have a soul.
Hashem is the soul of all souls.
Exactly.
Exactly.
So he doesn't have a soul. He is the soul of all souls.
I hear you're trying to. Yeah, I hear you. But Beis Shammai says it has to be for us. Yom Tov is for us.
All squares are rectangles, but not all rectangles are squares.
And
Source of all.
the source of all souls. Beis Hillel says they bring both peace offerings and burnt offerings and lay their hands on them. So Beis Hillel is lenient in both ways. He says you could bring a burnt offering to Hashem. He says, like David, if you're bringing for yourself, we can't bring for Hashem. That's Hashem's food. And he says you could also do smicha. You could also lean on it. So this is a double
Liberals.
double machlekes. Okay, now it gets more exciting over here, and this is what we mean that it wasn't resolved. We'll go to source 6. Source 5 is the same Mishnah. It says source 6. The following sources, the Tosefta, Talmud Yerushalmi, and Talmud Bavli, expand and expound on the dispute over smicha. The sources can be broken down into 3 distinct topics. 1, the history of halachic disputes, machlekes. 2, the particular dispute between Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel over smicha and Yom Tov. 3, a story of Hillel Hazakin and his attempt to bring a carbon oil on Yom Tov, and how a member of Beis Shammai established the halacha like Hillel. What's happening? There, we'll see soon a very interesting story. It's not the story that we started off in the Ein Yaakov, but we'll see that the 3rd story.
What about source 5? Did we skip that? Or no?
Yes, it's the same.
Distracted.
Okay. The sources create an idyllic picture of halachic history. At first, any time there was uncertainty or difference of opinion over a particular halacha, so where does this all machlekes start? Arguments. What would they do before the machlekes? So it says what they would do is they would pose the question to the great 71-member Sanhedrin that sat inside the Beis Hamikdash. Whenever they had a question, they would come to the court, to the big Sanhedrin. If someone had a tradition as to the proper rule, they would accept the tradition. Otherwise, the August group would vote and determine the halacha according to the majority. So how would there remain a machlekes? There wouldn't remain any arguments. The Sanhedrin would rule. It would go by the majority or whatever the Sanhedrin would decide. For reasons we will discuss, the one issue they could not resolve was the dispute over smicha. This was such a debate that they were not able to resolve this. Following Shammai and Hillel, their students no longer were capable of properly being instructed, and from then on, disputes multiplied.
And that takes us to the Omer.
To the Omer? How do we get
Because
to the Omer?
the students were disrespectful to each other. They couldn't
Disrespectful
argue-
to each other, yes.
Couldn't argue politely, and 24,000 died of the Roman plague.
Not very good. Not very good.
So we're talking about respecting each other. We're saying that the students of Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel, this was considered a problem, the fact that they were not respecting each other enough. As noted above, embedded within the machlekes over smicha and Yom Tov are 2 disputes. Here they clarify the 2 things. First, whether one may bring a carbon oil on Yom Tov. Could you bring a burnt offering on Yom Tov altogether? According to Beis Shammai, one cannot bring an oila since it is wholly burnt rather than eaten. There is no purpose for such a carbon on Yom Tov. Yom Tov is for us to eat. Beis Hillel permits a person to bring a carbon oila on Yom Tov based on the principle that how can we concern ourselves with food, with our food, and not also be concerned with Hashem's. This is David's also his reasoning. However, everyone agrees that you could bring a shlamim on Yom Tov. A shlamim is a peace offering where you also get to eat from it. So there's no argument about that. It's funny. Shlamim also means shalom. So there's peace. there's no argument about the shlamim. Yeah. Now separate. What? Mashal.
Which means real.
Or example, yes. Separately, so that's one argument. Separately, they argue whether or not it is permitted to perform smicha on Yom Tov itself. According to Beis Shammai, you are permitted to do smicha prior to bringing the karban. Consequently, he does not permit a person to violate the rabbinic prohibition of using an animal on Yom Tov. According to Beis Hillel, however, one can only perform smicha at the time of bringing the karban and cannot do so earlier. This is what we were saying before, whether you could do it before.
Hillel's leniency is based on a stricture.
Yes, because he holds that it's so important to do the smicha right before the slaughtering, so you have to do it on Yom Tov. When pitting the obligation to perform smicha against the rabbinic prohibition using animals on Yom Tov, he allows smicha to be performed.
So he considers the smicha and the korban to be inextricably linked and both Torah.
Both?
Both of them are Torah, the Doraisa.
It says in the Torah you need to do smicha, but it doesn't say how close smicha has to be to the shechita. Beis
But he connects them.
Beis Hillel says that
He says they're directly connected and have to be as close as possible.
Yes, the leaning on the animal and shechting have to be very close as possible.
So now Shammai is the liberal.
Huh?
Now Shammai is the liberal. He's the one who says,
He's saying you could do it a
little.
little bit earlier. Do it Erev Yom Tov. You don't have to do it on Yom Tov. Taking a step back, on a very practical level, this dispute had meaningful consequences for the population. How would this make a difference to everyone, to the community? According to Beis Shammai, a person who could not make the trek to the Beis Hamikdash, whether festivals or any other time, could still send korbanos and participate in ritual life, since he could perform smicha at home and send his korban with a shaliach. Lean on the animal at home and then send it later. Whereas according to Beis Hillel, this is halachically impermissible, and such a person would not be able to participate in the temple ritual. According to the sources, both disputes were eventually resolved. The sources vary slightly, but the major details remain the same. The Talmud Yerushalmi's version is the most dramatic retelling. So this is the story, what happened. Briefly, Hillel once arrived at the Beis Hamikdash in Yom Tov. This is Hillel himself, not Beis Hillel, but Hillel the elder, Hillel Hazakin, prepared to bring a karban oila. And he's coming with his oila. My halacha, Hillel says, you could bring a burnt offering. Shammai students quickly surrounded him. So we have Hillel himself, and we have here the students of Shammai. They're like, hey, what are you doing here? You're bringing an oila on Yom Tov. They come around, and they're trying to stop him to do it in an effort to prevent an oila from being brought. And Hillel resorts to, how do you read this word? Obfuscating the gender of the animal and pretends it's a female, which cannot be used for an oila, and that he is bringing a shlamim. This is very...
Concealing and causing confusion.
He is actually...
That's what obfuscating means.
Oh, okay, thank you for clarifying that. But he was trying, Rashi says that in order to make shalom, Hillel, we know, was very humble, and he didn't want to cause a whole fight, a whole argument in the Beis Hamikdash. So he said, I'm not bringing an oila, it's a shlamim, it's a peace offering. And so now, but Shammai's students invariably decided it's time to bring an end to dispute by bringing the matter to a vote.
It's really hard to pretend that a bull is a cow. Just putting that out there.
I don't know how he did this. I'm not sure how he...
Yeah.
And the word that it says, and I'm still trying to figure out what it means, but in the Talmud Yerushalmi it says that he was playing with his tail, and he was like saying, look, this is...
Right.
It's not necessarily bovine, is it? No, this is not.
I don't know how would that help. How would that show that it's a
Some
female?
animals.
All ruminants have udders,
Some
or
animals,
not.
it's covered by the tail.
Right, but what about udders?
Oh, so that's what he was doing.
Yeah,
He was
so
probably
it's-
covering. He was probably
covering
covering
the genitalia.
with the tail.
But,
That's it.
Yeah.
but even so, a bull has a fairly prominent penis, and a bull animal of any mammal, and then there's the matter of the udders on a female. Anyway.
Okay, I'm not sure how he did it, but he was trying to hide it. What and
It's unusual, but it's...
huh?
Oh, if it's super woolly, maybe that would help.
That's,
Yeah.
was a sheep.
Sheep with the fat tail.
That's what it was.
Uh-huh.
Sheep with,
Oh,
I
that-
remember
that-
learning
that
this,
helps.
and now
Yeah.
that's what it was, a sheep.
Okay, that would explain it, the covering up.
So the students of Beishamai used this opportunity and they said, look, even Hillel, maybe they knew that he was playing around. They said, look, even Hillel is saying that it's a shlomim, that it's a peace offering. Let's say, this is the halacha, no more oilas. No, we know also that Shammai, they were very aggressive. They were more strict and strong. They're like, okay, let's put an end to this. No more oilas allowed in the Beis HaMikdash. However, one student, Bava ben Buta, this was actually a student of Shammai, knew that the halacha was like Beis Hillel. So this is a student from Beis Shammai going for Beis Hillel. According to the Yerushalmi's retelling, Bava was inspired, prompted by the reality of the fact that under Beis Shammai's paradigm, the Beis HaMikdash was empty on Yom Tov. According to Beis Shammai, people were not bringing oilas, they were not bringing these burnt offerings, and people are not doing smicha, they're not interested in coming. So rather than teeming with people, it was desolate. The Beis HaMikdash was empty. Perhaps as a result of not being able to perform smicha, while not absolutely required, was very much a part of the carbon process for people. People refrained from bringing any karbanis, including shlamim and Yom Tov. So it's like you can't bring a oila, no burnt offerings, and even shlamim you can't do the smicha. Why would people come to the Beis HaMikdash? Preferring to wait until Chol HaMoed or after Shavuos when they could bring the carbon in the preferred manner. And he uses much harsher expressions, but he says, he comes to the Beis HaMikdash and he says, how come the house of Hashem is empty? What's going on over here? And to remedy the situation, Bava went out and brought 3,000 animals to the Beis HaMikdash and urged the population to come and bring them, including allowing them to perform smicha. And with that display, he established the halacha like Beis Hillel. This is crazy. A student of Beis Shammai is going and bringing 3,000 animals and says, no, everyone come, bring a oila, bring a burnt offering, bring a peace offering. We're doing this. We're doing smicha. The halacha is like Beis Hillel. A student of Beis Shammai is saying that. Yeah. Presumably as to both permitting oilas on Yom Tov and allowing smicha to be performed at the same time. Now, this is the full picture. After it says this story, that what Bava ben Buta did, the students of Beis Shammai, what we learned in Ein Yaakov is the second story. When the students of Beis Hillel came, and he was bringing the carbon, the oila, and then the other guys, the students of Beis Shammai says, Mazui, what is this? Smicha, you're doing smicha? And then the student of Beis Hillel says, what are you saying? Shtika, be quiet, we're allowed to bring this. This is the second story that comes after the first story of Bava Mebuta. If you look in the Gemara, it says, Shuv, this was another incident that happened. But the problem is that both stories don't fit together. Because if Bava ben Buta said that everyone could bring it, why was there only one student of Beis Hillel coming with an oila? What's going on over here?
The Democrats are in power here.
So, is there a time difference? Did the one with Bava ben Buta happen after the single conflict between those two?
From the Gemara, it says Shuv. It sounds like that the story of the one student of Beis Hillel, this debate between the two students happened later because because the first story was
grandiose display of 3,000 students of Hillel, the people following a student of Beis Shammai who's established the law, and now one guy comes and the argument is reignited. Do I understand correctly?
That's what it sounds like.
Okay.
And it seems funny because Bava ben Buta made this whole display, like you said, and showing that everyone should follow Beis Hillel. So what's going on with this story?
Like this student, Bava ben Buta had the bucks. Where did he get 3,000 animals from?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's another question.
Well, if there were a whole bunch of people who wanted to, all you have to do is round up all the people who want to and were waiting and say, bring your animals, come on, Pied Piper.
It sounds that he was very powerful to make such a
On the
thing.
other hand, if he brought in 3,000 free animals and everybody could make, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
But if people were in Jerusalem and they were waiting for Chol HaMoed, but they were there for the Chag, then maybe all he had to do was round up 3,000 people who were waiting for Chol HaMoed and say, do it now.
possibly it sounds like that he was bringing all these animals. That's what it sounds like.
That's the way I would get out there.
But what
He was a Gavir.
must have been, he was a rich
Very
man,
wealthy.
wealthy man.
Wealthy man.
Yeah,
I'm saying,
Yeah.
see, from the first story, it seems like Hillel might have been even afraid or intimidated from all these students of Beishamai. Hillel was coming with his offering, with his oila, and they were ganging up on him, and he says, "Oh, it's a shlomim." And then a student of Beishamai has the guts, has the courage to go against all the other students. Like, how come they didn't make a whole riot?
Right.
That's the whole
So he
term.
got voted down, I believe, right? 18 times they voted like Beis Shammai.
Oh.
They ruled like Beis Shammai.
You're getting bigger and bolder.
Well, what's Hashem saying? Like Shammai?
Good energy.
Yeah.
Is that a boss call?
we don't paskin with a basko. We don't paskin with a basko. Now, what's very interesting is we'll get back to that answer. Is something that's related to Shavuos. We're coming to Shavuos, so we'll go to the last page over here.
That's all.
Instead of checking the cows and milking.
We're certainly milking this argument.
So on the last page, this is from
That's early in the
where it says Shulchan
I
Aruch.
won't be cowed. Sorry.
Where it says Shulchan Aruch Admor Hazakin. This is from the Shulchan Aruch Harav.
In the middle.
Yeah. So this is talking about the halacha of the day after Shavuos, and it says like this: "B'meitzai Chag HaShavuos, asur l's'anos mi'ikar adin." It says that the day after Shavuos, you're not allowed to fast. Even if someone wants to fast for a different whatever reason, you're not allowed to fast on the day after Shavuos. Why? It was called the day of slaughtering. The day after Shavuos is called the day of slaughtering. Bizman Shavuos Hamikdash Kayam. In the times of the Beis Hamikdash. Tahainu. Shabai Bayayim Hayom Akrivan Oilas Ru'iyah. Because on the day after Shavuos, then they would bring the oilos, the burnt offering, Shaloi Hayu Yichaylan Lahakriv B'Yom Tov Atzmai, that they were not allowed to bring on the Yom Tov itself. Lefisha Ein B'Hem Shom Tzerech Eichel Nefesh, because it's not used for people are not eating from it. Ve'ein Michalul in Yom Tov B'Shvilam, we not desecrate the Yom Tov for this, Kivan She'efshal Akrivan Achar Yom Tov, because you could bring this oila after Yom Tov. So whose opinion is this? Shammai. What are we doing? We're saying the halacha is like Beis Shammai here.
Back to
The reason why you're not allowed to fast on the day after Shavuos is because we follow Beis Shammai that you cannot bring the oila on the day of Yom Tov, so we bring it after Yom Tov. And then the words in the bold over here. V'afal pi shezeh l'divrei Beis Shammai. And he says, if you're going to think what's going on, why are we following Beis Shammai? Aval l'divrei Beis Hillel mutar lakrivan af b'Yom Tov atzmai. According to Beis Hillel, you could bring it on the Yom Tov itself. Mikol makom, nevertheless, kivan shebedavar zeh asu Beis Hillel kedivreihem. The Alter Rebbe is saying that in this matter, Beis Hillel followed Beis Shammai. V'harbe mi Yisrael nagu kamaisam, and many Jews followed Beis Shammai. Where is he getting this from? We just had a whole display from Bava ben Butta saying that everyone go like Beis Hillel. And here we're saying that even Beis Hillel went according to Beis Shammai, and many Jewish people followed Beis Shammai.
I'll tell you what I didn't see in the previous story.
In the Gemara, it specifically it says 18 times.
They voted.
Based on Hillel, Beis Shammai rule. Beis Hillel followed Beis Shammai. Now, that was not necessarily the vote. More of his students were there at the time of the vote, I think.
You're talking about 18 times in the Talmud, or you're talking about they held
18 times in the Talmud.
or you're talking about that they held a vote 18 times on this
No, I'm
particular
telling
issue?
you, 18 times it says Beis Hillel
Right.
the whole.
But the question here is, although Bava ben Butta did that big glorious gesture, I was expecting it to say that it was followed up with a vote by the Sanhedrin and a decision, but it didn't say that.
So
Maybe this was never decided, it was never settled.
So that's what it seems like. So that's what we're trying to bring out. That from one hand we started off saying that it used to be the Sanhedrin would make the final ruling, and there wasn't really arguments. This was something which was not a positive thing, that they kept on arguing back and forth. And then Bava ben Butza did this whole display. But the question is, where do we find, where is there a source in the Gemara that Beis Hillel actually went like Beis Shammai?
There is.
in regards to this.
Oh, this, okay.
In regards to this, it says B'davar zeh, in this things Beis Hillel did like Beis Shammai.
That's not the source? Right, that?
It needs a source in the Gemara. This is what it says in Halacha, but it's
Shulchan
saying
Aruch.
this is in the Shulchan Aruch. and this is the only place where it says this. These words over here.
Does the
that
Mishnah Berurah follow the Shulchan Aruch there?
it does not give this reasoning, which means it could be that this is the halacha that you're not allowed to fast on the day after Yom Tov, but to say that it's because we hold of Beis Shammai and Beis Shammai says this thing. It
But the
doesn't,
Mishnah Berurah doesn't rule differently.
I don't think so.
Okay.
No. So the source to say that we went like Beis Shammai is our story in the Ein Yaakov over here. This other student that came, why was there only one student? Why was there one student of Beis Hillel bringing this oila? Why wasn't everyone bringing oilas?
Okay.
That itself is showing you that most people went like Beis Shammai. And that's why there was only one student, and even when he came, he got attacked.
He had all the money to buy the animals.
Different guy.
Ah,
This is the
okay.
first guy, the one who said
Never mind.
shtika. Yeah, yeah.
And maybe that's the reason why the Gemara says one story after the other. He says, even after the story of Bava ben Buta, and he's coming and making this whole proclamation that halacha is like Beis Hillel, it wasn't so simple. It
You know what
still
he's
didn't
doing?
get resolved.
He's making a lesson that Judaism does not follow mob rule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because just because this guy had this grandiose gesture and 3,000 animals and everybody follows him, doesn't make it law. Just
Exactly.
because it's popular doesn't make it right.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the point?
Possibly, it's something that we could learn from it.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing is that if we look at the story, we could even assume that he did not end up bringing the carbon oila. That when this other,
It doesn't say who left.
and first of all, it doesn't say who left, and it could be that the students of Beis Hillel walked away. The other student came and said, "What are you doing?" And maybe the students of Beis Hillel walked away. And how would we prove this, that it was the students of Beis Hillel that walked away? Because the Gemara said, from here we learn that if you're arguing with someone else, don't say more than the other person. If the student of Shammai left, so then there's no one to talk to. Obviously he wouldn't say anything more. Right? How did it start? The one student comes and he brings the Ayla, and the student of Beis Shammai says, "What are you doing? Mazo Semicha." So the student of Beis Hillel says, "What are you telling me to be quiet? What are you telling me not to do it? You should be quiet." Who left now? If the student of Beis Shammai left, the student of Beis Hillel can't respond anything more. There's nothing to say because the guy left. You see where the Gemara says that you should not respond to someone more.
Shammai didn't offer a retort to the question, "Why are you silencing me?"
They didn't continue it. It was exact wording. He said Mazo Smicha and he said Mazo Sika.
Right.
So why wasn't there more back and forth? The Gemara says from here we see that you should use the same wording. If you're arguing with someone, don't use more. If the student of Beis Shammai left, then we wouldn't know this. We wouldn't know that you should not add more, because maybe there was nothing to add because the person that started the debate left.
Right. So if I'm bringing in Ola, and you say, "What are you doing?"
Yes.
And I say, "What are you doing?" And you leave, then I continue to do my thing without further response. And if I bring an Ola and you say, "What are you doing?" and I say, "What are you doing?" and I leave, there's still no cause for further argument. So I don't see how anything's resolved.
Let's say we have two people arguing. Yeah.
Right.
So let's say you do something that I don't like.
Yeah.
So you started this. So I tell you, "What are you doing?" And then you tell me, like, "Be quiet."
Silence.
Silence. Now, if you leave now, I can retort back because you left.
There's nothing further to
There's
say.
nothing further to say. But the Gemara says this is teaching us.
But if you leave,
I could
then I
continue.
wouldn't respond to you either. I would just do my sacrificing.
But whose turn is it to argue back now?
Shammai.
Hillel, because you attacked me for
Shammai said, "What are you doing?" Hillel said, "Why are you silencing me?" Now it's Shammai's turn.
Yeah, but Hillel could really say more, right? We're saying that the fact that he was precise in his wording is teaching us a lesson not to say more. right? But
Oh,
the
he could
question
say
is,
this
could
I'm following my leader,
he
and I'm
could,
going to do this anyway, and stuff like that?
he could say a lot of things. So he could just keep on going. The Gemara is saying that he was very precise in his wording, and he used exact wording. So the fact that he was so short, that shows that you should not keep on going.
Right, but I don't see how it shows who won the argument.
No, but it
That's-
shows who left. It shows who left because
I can't follow your logic. I see what you're saying, but I don't follow the logic of it. I guess I won't.
okay.
Teosop, keneged teosop, meter keneged meter.
Measure word for word, exactly. Measure for measure.
I said, word for
Okay,
word.
so what we get from that, which I can't see, but what we get from that is that the Hillel guy left.
Basically, when it was Hillel's turn to respond,
Don't try to explain
Okay,
it because
okay,
I'm not getting
okay.
it. But what we draw from that is that
Hillel was the one who left. And basically, from this story, we see that even at the end, it was not resolved, and Shammai still had a stronger vote in this idea. And at the end, this
Oh, so we do see it's not resolved.
we see that it's not
Okay,
resolved.
we don't see who won, but we see it's not resolved. Okay, now I understand. Sorry.
But when it comes to the day after Shavuos, we actually do this, that we're not allowed to fast, and it's considered a bigger Yom Tov than any other Isru Chag. Any other day after Yom Tov is not as much of a Yom Tov than the day after Shavuos. Why? Because in other Yom Tovim, yes, if you cannot bring the Yom Tov on the first day of Yom Tov, when would you bring it? On Chol HaMoed, during the days in the middle.
But it hasn't
On
followed.
Shavuos, there's no Chol HaMoed. So if there was not enough time, or you were not able to bring the carbon on the first day on Yom Tov, when would you bring that? On the second day. You're bringing a carbon of Yom Tov on the day after. So that's why it was called the Yom Tvoyach, the day of slaughtering, and therefore Me'ikar Hadin, from the main halacha, you're not allowed to fast on the day after Shavuos. So this is how it all ties in.
So which is the holiest day before you? That's the question.
There's maybe Arab Shavuos
Erev Shavuos,
That's-
Erev Yom Kippur.
is like
Day
that.
is greater than Yom Kippur.